Well, hello friends. Welcome to the Ladybird browser update for June 2024. It has been a great month in the project. Very unusual month because the big piece of news this month is that we forked. So at the start of June, we forked Ladybird and Serenity OS. I wrote a blog post about it, and I will link that in the video description. But essentially, this fork was about recognizing that Serenity OS and Ladybird were two large projects sharing a space together, and they really wanted to go in their own directions, but we were forcing them together because of shared history. And so this new split allows Serenity OS to go and focus on being an operating system, and Ladybird can go and focus on being a browser. And as part of this, I've stepped down as the benevolent dictator of Serenity OS, and that project is now in the hands of its maintainer group, and it's up to the community what happens next. But I think this is going to be a really, really good thing because I've been focused on Ladybird completely for at least the last 2 years. So it wasn't right or fair for me to be in charge of Serenity OS when I wasn't focusing on it at all. So this is the big thing this month. And our new location on GitHub is Ladybird Browser, the org, and you can find us there. So, of course, there are a couple of things that are different now that we've forked. And the main ones are that anything that isn't browser related is removed. So obviously, like the whole operating system that we were sharing a code base with is now gone from the Ladybird repo. We've also relaxed the policy on third-party code. Serenity OS famously does not allow any third-party code. And in Ladybird, we now allow third-party libraries. So a lot of work this month has gone into just taking mature third-party libraries from the open source ecosystem and bringing them into Serenity OS to sort of enhance our functionality and get rid of our own implementations of these things. And it's still something that we're figuring out, like what are things that we want to do ourselves versus things that we want to bring in from the outside. But I'll get to some examples of what we've been doing. And we're also using VC package now to build some of our dependencies. This is still experimental, but it's been helpful so far in being able to get everybody building the same versions of some of the third-party things that we're bringing in. But the idea now is that we want to lean on the open source ecosystem and build a nice browser. So this is sort of the new agenda. Right, so here are the third-party libraries we've integrated so far. And this has allowed us to remove tens of thousands of lines of code, probably hundreds of thousands, probably over 100,000 lines of code. I haven't counted. But essentially by leaning on these mature libraries from the open source ecosystem, we get full functionality, we get well-tested, stable, secure libraries, and we get great performance. And we don't have to maintain these things that aren't really like browser code, but rather just support code for the browser. So big thanks to everybody who's been doing porting code to third-party libraries, Tim and Alex in particular. And also Zaggy, who did FFmpeg. And this is still evolving, and we have more libraries that we would like to use, especially in the realm of cryptography and networking and things like that. But these are the ones that we've already converted. So next, I want to talk about some browser improvements we made this month, because although we've been heavily focused on the fork and sort of bringing in third-party libraries, we've also managed to work a bit on the browser engine itself, of course. So I implemented an HTTP cache this month. It is a basic first version of an HTTP cache, so it's in memory only, We're not saving downloaded stuff to disk yet. That's going to be fantastic once we do it. But right now, validation needs more work. So there are a couple of cases from the HTTP cache RFC spec that we don't validate correctly. We don't honor the vary header. But if you want to test this right now, you can run with enable HTTP cache and see how it works for you. And future work here will include disk caching and better validation and testing. But I'm pretty excited about this because we have been in the state of like re-downloading the same resources over and over for a long time. So moving towards some kind of caching is good. We've also done a couple of JavaScript optimizations this month. I think none of these were driven by benchmarks, but rather just bottlenecks on live websites that we encountered. So this is probably something that we will continue focusing on more in the future, of course, JavaScript performance, but this month, no updates on benchmarks. We've also seen a bunch of WASM improvements. So Diego and Enver worked on WASM, and I've seen that the WASM test suite pass rate has shot up dramatically. And both Diego and Enver, and possibly somebody else that I saw, have been contributing to our WASM implementation and just making it more correct. So this is really exciting, of course, because more WASM correctness means that we can run more of the web. And Tim Ledbetter has been continuing to work on find and page. So previously it had this frustrating bug that it wouldn't find text if it was sort of broken up by formatting. So if you had a bold tag in the middle of a word, you couldn't find the word because it was considered 3 separate pieces of text. And we also have the window.find API. We no longer match non-visible text fragments, which was very annoying. And yeah, so Tim has been continuing to work on the find and page implementation, and it keeps getting better. And I found myself using it the other day, and I didn't even realize that I was in Ladybird at first because everything was just working as I'm used to in other browsers. So that was cool. And a feature I did this month was declarative shadow DOM, or not just me, actually. I shouldn't take full credit. But we now support streaming shadow roots in pure HTML. So this is a very neat feature. It allows you to declare a shadow DOM without JavaScript using the template shadow root mode tag. And this necessitated adding a couple of different APIs. And Luke Warlow from Egalia contributed a bunch of this code as well. So thank you, Luke, very much for doing that. And another thing that's really neat this month is that we have unified scroll bar painting. So this is something Alex did, where previously we had this 2 ways of drawing scroll bars. So the outermost scroll bar was drawn by the GUI framework, so like Qt or AppKit on Mac. And then iframe and overflow scroll bars were drawn by our web content rendering process. But now web content draws all the scroll bars. So this unified model will allow us to have consistent look of scroll bars, consistent rendering and behavior and everything. And this is a big improvement in my opinion, because it was really jarring to have 2 different styles of scroll bars. Now you don't get native looking scroll bars anywhere, but you do get consistent, which I think is far, far better. So thank you, Alex, for doing this. And of course, as usual, we've implemented various new web APIs that we ran into that were missing while we were trying to browse the web. This is something we do every month. I think this month, at the very least, these are contributions from Jamie, Enver, Luke, Tim, and myself. Possibly somebody else. I think Kenneth did some. Yeah, so a bunch of people contributed new web APIs as well. Amazing. And now I would like to show you a little demo of some of the stuff this month. All right, so let's take a look at Ladybird post fork. First thing I want to show you is we have a new Skia painting backend, which we can launch like this. and it's almost fully complete. So this uses the Skia library for 2D graphics rasterization. We're doing it on the CPU right now, but Skia has support for GPU rendering as well, and we are moving towards that. We've taken the first steps on Mac OS, and Linux will be next. So I can't show you that here, unfortunately, but very, very cool that we've been able to just swap out the rasterizer. And it's still experimental because we don't support everything that our old 2D rasterizer that we made ourselves can do. But this is very, very cool still. So thank you, Alex, for implementing the Skia rasterizer. And I guess another thing I would show you is FFmpeg. It's another third-party library that we now support. So here is, I think this is an H.264 video playing in a Matroska container through FFmpeg. So I don't think we could play this video at all before, but now we can, and it uses a fair bit of CPU, but that's mostly our own fault, I'm pretty sure, because our rendering pipeline is not very clever when it comes to rendering video. So that's something that we're going to have to improve. But by just using FFmpeg, it gives us high performance, compatible codecs for a ton of formats already. And we're going to have to expand that to support other container formats, not just Matroska. But this is really, really cool still to have this working. So thank you very much to Zaggy for working on FFmpeg integration. All right. And then I also wanted to show you just some fun things that I've been like making sure they work this month in Ladybird. So this is a Tetris font, I guess. I don't know what to call it exactly, but it was a demo that showed up on Hacker News one day, and I thought, that's pretty cute. So let's speed it up a bit, and you can see he just types with Tetris blocks. So if we were to write something here like, I don't know, dogs drool, cats rule, then we can see that it actually looks pretty nice in Ladybird, and it animates and resizes correctly. It's just a random page, but I love that random pages just work these days. Another one, let's bring back the Skia backend, by the way. Another one that I doodled with was this PDP-11 emulator that allows you to run Unix on a typewriter in the browser. So I think I have to like type here into the bootloader, and it's supposed to look like a typewriter the way that it was back in the late 60s, early 70s, I guess. I've never used one of these machines, but I love that somebody actually put one of these together so that you can experience it for yourself in the browser. So this is emulating a PDP-11 machine in JavaScript, and we're not doing super great with the performance here. There are some very, very silly things we're doing in the JavaScript runtime. So I think they're doing like array.splice or something like that. So we do need to look into that. But here we can see it booting eventually. And look at that. A browser that started in a project that was creating a new Unix is now booting the first ever Unix in a simulation typewriter. Pretty sweet. So I guess it would be nice to be able to run a command, but I hope this I hope this disclaimer here is not too long, or this whatever to call this message. I guess in the meantime we can open a second tab, because why not? And we will load another page that I debugged a bunch this month. So here is some guy's blog where he writes a bit about SVG, and this blog was totally broken at the start of the month, and I fixed a bunch of issues with SVG, with Flexbox, with block layout, all kinds of layout and HTML issues, and now it's nice and smooth and even looks correct. And this SVG loads. I think it used a bunch of SVG elements that we didn't know how to use before. So that's really good as well. And I really love this, like just finding some guy's blog and just trying to get it to work correctly in Ladybird. It's so satisfying. Somehow it's almost more satisfying than making some big tech website work, right? Because the HTML and CSS and these kind of blogs, it's so personal. So I love that. All right, I think this guy has logged in now, so maybe we can type some, let's see if we can type a command. Can I? No? Ah, dang it. I thought I would be able to type something. All right. Never mind. I also wanted to show you the HTTP cache. So if we open Shopify, for example, or actually, I have to enable the cache, of course. So enable HTTP cache. Then we will see we have a bunch of these debug messages coming out. So every cache miss is noted. We can see that we're downloading all of this JavaScript and stuff. And it's all misses when we're first loading a page. So then let's go to Google. And then maybe we will go back to Shopify once again. And when we load Shopify again, we can see that everything is a cache hit, basically. So it loads the page without downloading all these resources again. This is very, very nice. So definitely help me test the HTTP cache and see if you find something wrong with it. And as I mentioned, it doesn't do all validation logic correctly, so there are some issues. There are going to be some issues with that, but we'll continue to work on it. All right, now before we go, I want to thank all the contributors who hacked on Ladybird in June. All of these are folks who have committed something to the project on GitHub. So thank you so much for working on Ladybird. I'm so happy that we're all doing this together, and this is the most fun that I've ever had. And I hope that it was fun for every one of you as well to work on this stuff. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you for watching the video, for staying up to date with the Ladybird project. Thank you to everybody who sponsors us in some way. Really, really appreciate that. Allows us to keep doing this. And I think this is so much fun. And next month is going to be even weirder because, well, you'll see tomorrow. But today, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.